Mount Washington Presbyterian Church celebrates its centennial year in 2012. This film will showcase the ministry, mission, education, and outreach that has defined the life of this church for the past 100 years. When the village of Mount Washington was annexed to the city of Cincinnati, it only had one Protestant church. After a door-to-door canvass, parents of more than 100 children said that they would send their children to a Sunday school if one were formed. In March of 1911, Sunday school classes were started at Miss Lillian Franklin's Conservatory of Music on Beachmont Avenue. With a financial pledge of $200 from the 7th Presbyterian Church in downtown Cincinnati, the new group pledged to have regular preaching services every other Sunday, mornings and evenings. In April of that same year, the group found a new meeting place in the Mount Washington Businessmen's Club at Corbley and Sutton. Growth was slow but steady, and people began to discuss forming a church. On Sunday, November 19th, the group voted unanimously to petition for a new church home. Minutes from the Presbytery of Cincinnati meeting on January 15, 1912 state, "Your committee unanimously recommends the organization of a Presbyterian church at Mount Washington." It's generally accepted that 51 people signed the original roll of active members. One of those members, Jean Mergler, was active in the church for almost 70 years and died at the age of 97 in 1981. The Jean Circle of Presbyterian Women is named for her. Joseph Foster was a Lane Seminary student until March of 1912, when he was ordained and called to serve the church as stated supply. He became the church's first pastor after the congregation elected him by acclamation, and was paid a salary of $550 per year. The congregation then began to plan for a building of their own. On Easter Sunday, 1916, the building at 2010 Beachmont Avenue was dedicated. It had cost the congregation $5,000. In 1932, ground was broken for a sanctuary at the same site. Reverend Milo Barron served as pastor from 1935 to 1966 and oversaw the expansion of the church. Dr. Barron came to Cincinnati from Wisconsin and is remembered for his sense of humor and his strong vision for the church. He was a founder and board member of the original Southeastern Ecumenical Ministry, or SEM, which provided housing and care for the elderly. When he retired in 1966, the church gave him the title of Pastor Emeritus. He spent his retirement years and interim pastorates in Cincinnati, and in 1979, he was named Anderson Township's Citizen of the Year.
We kind of were expanding at the seams up on Beachmont at Mears, and so we were going to expand, but there was no room for the church to expand, so they moved the manse. Or while they were moving the manse, we had to live in a little cottage next door. But the cottage was where the Sunday school was, so every Sunday morning, the alarm would go off at 6:30. Our dog, who was sleeping in the bed with me, would jump on the floor, wake everybody up. We had to take all of our belongings and put them out on the front porch and make room for about 5 classrooms in the cottage. So I think that gave my dad an idea, and he came down here and he discovered that this property right here where we are may be for sale.
Ground was broken for the Educational Building and Fellowship Hall in 1952. 1 year later, the $275,000 building was dedicated at a service that closed with the singing of Handel's Hallelujah Chorus. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The congregation continued to grow, so in April of 1957, ground was broken for a new sanctuary. Members stood on the front lawn to watch as the steeple was put into place. In June of 1964, ground was broken for the chapel, courtyard, and parlor, with Gavin Gray serving as architect of the project.
You heard it said that the Sunday school was growing and things were getting very tight. So the congregation, the session, under the leadership of the session, trustees, decided that we should build more educational facilities right away. So that's when I resigned from the trustees and was privileged to be asked to design a new wing for the church. And it was completed in 1964. I've had the privilege of having my daughter married in this chapel about 4 years after it was completed. And my wife, funeral was held here. Memorial service was held here in 2005. So it has meant a lot to me to be able to contribute my professional services to the church and see it grow.
Dr. Al Davies served as pastor of the church from 1976 through 1994. During his tenure, the church saw several milestones, including the 75th anniversary celebration. The need for more space was evident during the 75th celebration, so a capital campaign was launched to build a new fellowship hall, reconfigure the offices and Sunday school rooms, and to build classrooms for the new preschool.
The session and trustees, by a 23-3 vote last June, approved the architect's overview and recommended a program of renovation for the Christian education wing, as well as some new construction to be presented to the congregation for further action. Renovations would include an expanded Christian education wing, an improved circulation pattern throughout the entire building, additional rooms for education and meetings, vastly improved storage space, a more efficient heating-cooling system, relocation and rearrangement of the offices.
Church members were responsible for working in and around the church for all of its life. Martha Martin, for example, served as president of the Women's Presbyterian Society of Cincinnati. Don Wells worked with Jim Bliss and Bob Davis to form the Men's Discovery Group. Mount Washington Associate Pastor Jeff Kane and his wife Carol brought the Stephen Ministry to Cincinnati, a program of lay pastoral counseling and caregiving. In 1985, Sarah Ossie saw the need for a midweek program for kids, and Super Wednesday was born. Children from around the area meet on Wednesday nights for an evening of fun, fellowship, and Bible study, a program that remains a vital ministry today. Ever since its beginnings as a Sunday school, Mount Washington continues to be known for excellence in children's and youth programming, which not only nurture young people in their faith, but teach them to serve the world around them. Ruth Martin served as Director of Children's Ministries for 21 years. Steve Shaddix coordinated the youth program for 16 years. Music ministries have always been a source of pride. Organist Emerita Mary Esther Higgs played for worship services for 30 years. Music director Chris Miller led the music ministry and directed choirs for 10 years. Wileen Davies, wife of Pastor Emeritus Dr. Al Davies, established the vibrant handbell program at the church and directed them for 18 years. Mission work has always been a focus for the church and its members. Locally, Mount Washington has supported Habitat for Humanity and helped build several houses in the area. The church has also supported several national and international mission efforts over the years, including establishing a sister relationship with the Canabal Presbytery in Guatemala. Mount Washington continues to be a major base of support for the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, a national ministry managed by the Presbyterian Church of the United States of America, whose efforts assist people after natural disasters. The church's signature ministry, Feeding the Hungry, drives mission efforts into the next century. The church has challenged itself to mark this anniversary by raising $100,000 in food and cash donations for the year 2012. Local beneficiaries include the Batavia Food Bank, the SEM Pantry, the House of Peace Shelter, the Drop-In Center, First Lutheran Church of downtown Cincinnati, Mount Washington Elementary School, and the list goes on. Currently, the church worships in 3 distinct styles: Connections, a contemporary service; Morning Glory, a blended service; and a traditional worship service. As the church approaches its 100th birthday, the congregation and its leadership look to how it will serve the community over the next 100 years.
Presbyterians believe that the life of the Christian flows from the worship of the church. And what that means is when we gather for worship, we are equipped for all the things for which God calls us. And when we do all the things to which God calls us, we end up back in worship celebrating that. We believe that the Spirit moves among us as we gather in worship to form us, inform us, and transform us as followers of Jesus Christ. Although we may look very much alike and we come from very similar neighborhoods, we have varied spiritual gifts and varied spiritual hungers. So our worship life has 3 distinct services. And those 3 services are not in competition with each other. They're complementary service. And they're one of the many ways that we try to live out what we have on the sign out front that says again and again, all are welcome here.